The year 1996. Steve Grant is a roboticist who is spending his career on artificial life simulations. He's just published his first video game, Creatures. In the game, you raise children of a species of aliens called Norns. Norns start with no behavior pre-programmed, and you, the player, need to raise them in an environment filled with poisonous plants and hostile creatures named Grendels. Norns develop using a machine learning system where simulate genetics, hormones, and a brain. You can breed Norns together and they'll have families that will interact with each other. Norns are incredibly advanced, even by today's standards. They have emotions, menstrual cycles, and can even learn how to speak. When Norns first hatch, they babble just like human babies, and you can teach them rudimentary language. Later, adult Norns will teach your language to their kids. The reaction to Creatures was overwhelmingly positive, with receiving praise from many, including Douglas Adams and Richard Dawkins. The game quickly gained a large fanbase who was very passionate about it. White did an interview with several members of the Creatures community. Here's what they have to say about the game. It's not uncommon for younger breeders to burst into tears when their first Norns die. I even got an email from a fully grown man who admitted he cried when his favorite Norn died. You could also export your Norns to a file called a .cob file, standing for creature object. If you had the skill, you can mob your cob's brain or genetics to give them abilities not possible in the base game. Years into the game's life, a new figure entered the Creatures community, named Anti-Norn. He introduced himself with the following image accompanied by text. After I created her, I started hitting her constantly for about 5 minutes. Then I taught her all the words so it'd be easier to make her scared of her surroundings. She knew all the words. I placed her in a small area surrounded by 5 Grendels. I left her there for about 20 minutes, beating her when she attempted to defend herself. The Grendels, after she was sufficiently traumatized, put her back in the garden. I forced her to get, look, and push everything around her all the time, constantly beating her. I made her fear running so I wouldn't have to deal with those little problems. You fellow torturers out there know how annoying it is when you have to chase one down when they get away. I also forced her to eat poisonous weeds, rewarding her when she did so. At the time I exported her, she's quivering mess of fear. She might eat, if you're lucky, but she probably won't survive long enough for food to do any good. You can download her by clicking below. Have fun. Anti-Norn's posts infuriated the community, with many of them seeing Norn torture as morally equatable to real torture. Here are some of the responses Anti-Norn received. If we two were ever gonna meet, the following will happen. I'll chain you to a wall, kick you, and slap your ugly face to a bloody mess. Then I'm gonna get my friends to trash you until you're sufficiently traumatized. Then we'll inject you with painful chemicals, making you cling onto your miserable life. We'll starve you until you almost croak. They'll trash you some more with chains and knives. If you're still alive, we'll kick you out of your own little slick world again. Then you'll perhaps know the little innocent defenseless Norms feel when you abuse them. P.S. I got a lot of friends. We'll pass you with mail and fames. You too hard, don't redeem yourself. With another adding, why did you buy the program? All you do is torture them. You may think it's fun, but I don't. You are sick, depressed, evil being. I hope you die a horrible death like Slave did. Players decided to take the download link as a chance to rehabilitate Slave. Doing so was extremely difficult. At the moment she was exported, she was minutes away from dying from poison. She was also scared of the player, who she would exclusively call God, and would not follow any kind of instruction. Despite this, some players were able to recover her, and would let her live with their Norns in their world. When Stave started having kids, this turned out to be a huge mistake, because players soon discovered that her genes were modded, so she'll constantly produce alcohol in her bloodstream. This caused her children to die young of alcohol poisoning. Anti-Norn then appended to his description of Slave, the norm just about every normal lover out there imported into their worlds, and unwillingly mated to create abnormally drunk children. Wow. I bet they're proud of the fact they basically tortured generations of newborns this way. Happily having enraged an entire fandom, Anti-Norn followed up his initial post by creating a website called Tortured Norms, where he'd upload many more examples of his Norm torture, including Tickle Me, a Norm that was reprogrammed to feel pain every time they become happy, or Alex, a Norm named after a user on the Creature fandom Anti-Norm didn't like, that was genetically modified to constantly crave attention. There was also another section for mods of the game Anti-Norm created, such as the Hampson radio, which would play Bob on loop and will cause any Norm who hears it to feel immense fear, pain, and anger. A crack pipe, which when a Norm uses it, they release a large amount of endorphins, but then once the effect wears off, they have increased sense of fear, anger, and increased need for pleasure. Any Norm who interacts with this item will immediately become addicted. Or the suicide machine, a syringe that instantly kills any Norm it's used on. Another section on the site included rants where he talked about whatever's on his mind, like how he fantasized about killing a woman for taking too long as a McDonald's drive-thru. And also a section where listed various different recipes for dishes including Norms as the main ingredient. But most importantly, included his email address on the site, where after being up for several months, he created a new section where he showed various emails he had received from members of the Creatures community. If we ever meet, I swear to God I'll beat the living crap out of you, torture you by whipping you, shove red hot chili peppers down your miserable little throat, inject you with poison, kick your ass, punch the hell out of you, surround you with various beasts, and leave you in the freaking chamber to die a long, slow, horrible death. Got it? You lousy, no good bitch. You have problems. You need to seek professional help. I'm glad you post on this site. It's one of the quiet ones I'm worried about. I hope they leave your site up so it warns everyone about the kind of people out there lurking around. On a side note, my mother heard about your page and recommended that the game be taken away. I don't agree. If it keeps you away from living creatures for longer, then it's the little help you need. I love your site. I'm happy you do what you do. I love getting you kicked off the internet. I have connections, and I get what I want. You know I'm a hacker. I learned from the best. I know how to pass junk mail through a filter. I won't stop till next week. By then, you will have lost your sight and be begging for forgiveness. I am very pleased and happy to see my other email on your site. It makes me feel a purpose in life. I will keep sending you stuff from a variety of email addresses and you'll have no clue. Hee hee hee. By the way, should we ever meet, I'll take a 50cc syringe, fill it with hydrogen peroxide and stick it into your eye. I will proceed to slapping you for a while you try to get a Indian drum till your skin is a light bluish cover. After that, I'll take a carving knife and take from your skin from your stomach. I'll sit you down through pH2 acid and write on your internal organs. This is what happens when you mess with Norns. Watch out, because I have access to find who you are. I hope this posted on your little email thing alongside my other wonderful letters is much better spelling. You have violated several laws of cyber life, cyber rights. If you don't shut down your site in 10 days, we will see you in court or alert the authorities.cyberlife. At the end of the emails I received section, Anti-Norn footnoted it with, "It is simply amazing that all these so-called nurturing norm lovers have the ability to threaten the life of a fellow human being. They want us to believe they are a kind nature and capable of loving and taking care of these so cute Norns. But then they turn around and show their true selves by sending numerous emails full of threats and foul language. They attempt to defend their actions by saying, hate mail and flames is the only way we can deal with people like you. Yet I've never received a single email from any of you anti-torture people that was written in a mature manner. Not a single one. Not a single one of you has attempted to hold a civil, decent conversation with me concerning my favorite hobby. This all leads me to believe that my own little personal theory is true. Everyone has tortured something in the world at one time or another. The difference between the anti-torture norm lovers and me is that I'm no hypocrite. I don't hide behind a cutesy-friendly webpage sending hate mail to people I don't agree with. This sparked debate within the creatures community. Some argued that because norms are just video game characters, there's morally nothing wrong with torturing them, while others made the argument that norm torture could lead to real-world violence. While there was many who claimed that because norms were advanced AI with emotions, torturing norms is just as bad as torturing real-life humans or animals. This led to two members, Joseph Flower and Sam, creating a site called Equal Rights for Norns. They sent multiple emails to GeoCities trying to get the site taken down, to no avail. Many also created parody sites such as Anti-Norn Bread Society, which advocated for all digital files to have human rights. But the largest critic of Anti-Norm was Eagle Woman, who signed a petition to get the site taken down. With the new attention from this controversy, Wired created an article about Anti-Norm called Virtual Sadism. They did an interview where we learned a lot more about Anti-Norm's life and his views. He was in his late 20s, he was serving in the US Navy at the time, and he called himself a hardcore internet lover, back when that was a term of endearment. He said that he started Norm torture because he was sick of how lovey-dovey the entire creatures community was. The interviewer asked him, "Tell me what you've learned so far with your experiments on the creatures community," and he responded, "The primary thing I've learned is that the majority of so-called loving creatures players are just vindictive, hateful people who lack a firm grip of reality. I've also learned, however, that there are quite a few players out there who are willing to learn more about the advanced skills, i.e. genetics, cob making, etc., in order to rehabilitate my norms. I have some interesting conversations with some of these people. I've learned a little bit more about them in the process." He also mentioned that if Eaglewoman had just sent him an email politely asking him to take down his website, he probably would have. Following this, the website Equal Rights for Norns was shut down by its creators due to them not supporting people sending anti-norm death threats and email bombs. As the controversy died down, anti-norm's activities slowed down after this. So where's Creatures and Anti-Norm now? Well, soon after Creatures' release, Steve Grant left the company to work on another project. In 1998, Creatures 2 released, and Anti-Norm briefly returned to continue his norm torture, although his second wave did not get nearly as much attention as the first. When Creatures 3 released in 1999, Anti-Norm decided not to continue his norm torture, because it was unhappy with the state that the game was released in. So what happened to Steve Grant after he left the company? He'd spent years working on a robot orangutan with a camera in one eye named Lucy, and he raised this robot as if it was his own child. He spent the next years of his life working in solitude, producing his own robots, making very little public appearances, until 2011, when he announced that he started working on a spiritual successor to Creatures called Granduloids. Granduloids is a game made from Unity 3D. He started a Kickstarter campaign with a video that references Anti-Norn.
Hi everybody, my name's Steve Grand, and my project is to create a new form of life. Which I'm sure sounds really weird if you don't already know me, and it is. So, if you don't mind, I'll let the others explain.
It all began nearly 20 years ago, when Steve started to create these obnoxious little creatures called Norns. And boy are they stupid.
Hey, who are you calling stupid, plastic face? I'll have you know we're genuine artificial life forms made from complicated networks of brain cells and chemical reactions and genes and stuff.
Yeah, and we can learn things for ourselves. And we can evolve too.
That's right.
Well, some of us.
And the people loved us. They set up hundreds of websites about us. They produced new breeds, studied our biology, wrote stories about us. Oh boy, did that guy who was cruel to us get it in the neck.
Okay, my little furballs, you have a point. But ever since you were created, Steve has been working hard on something better, using graceful and beautiful robots like me and Lucy. Like me.
Oi, watch it, Bimbo.
And we have something you don't have, my hairy friends. We have an imagination, and that allows us to have real thoughts and hopes and dreams. Steve has been developing some exciting new theories with a little help from me.
Ha! And her, like she ever got.
And at last he's ready to create some brand new artificial life forms. Inside a game, just like you cute little naughty one is, except in 3D and not nearly so irritating. But he needs some help from the humans because he doesn't have enough money to complete the project without some support. He's hoping you'll do it because you're just as excited to be a part of this giant experiment in artificial life as we are. But there are some nice rewards too. Small donations will get you a signed photo of Lucy, so if you want to avoid that, pledge more, and we'll let you beta test the game and play a part in shaping it. You might even get your name in the credits. Eventually, there will be enough artificial life forms in existence for us to take over the world from you puny little humans. I mean, for us to be your lovable companions forever. So Steve, Lucy, the Furballs and I would like to thank you for your support, and I'm sure the future creatures would like to say a big thank you for making their pointless little lives possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
The Kickstarter successfully raised $56,000, but over time the updates began to slow down. Granduloids is still in development, with its last public update being in August of 2016, although occasionally a video will appear online of beta test footage of the game. Despite the game's age, Creatures still has a small but dedicated cult fanbase, with many of the newer members being younger than the game itself. And amongst the players of the game, Anti-Norn still lives on in infamy to this day.
Oh.